The story of Mbarek Nafa. Telling a story that will finish soon, even though I'm not planning on stepping myself with that spoon. Telling a story that is unfinished, but might soon. Telling a story worth telling, but to whom? Telling the story of Mbarek Nafa, an arrogant human being, shy, but he loves and trusts himself so much that he is writing about how great he is, even before he becomes great, only because he is and he will, or isn't he already? It's all confusing. Let's back up a little bit. Mbarek Nafa, born on October 15, 1999, shares the same birthday with Friedrich Nietzsche. What a coincidence. But unlike Nietzsche, Mbarek was born in Asmara, Morocco. He didn't complain about it, he loved it. Mbarek once said that Asmara is the best city in the world. Yes, of course, all of his friends laughed at him, but Mbarek loved and still loves Asmara. For multiple reasons, he made a video with his friends showcasing them. Childhood. Mbarek's childhood can be described as quiet normal. He had a lot of friends, he was loved by all of them, and they all were brave, knocking on strangers' doors and running, doing all sorts of dangerous stuff, while he would prefer to only hang out with them when things are safe, but when things get ugly like in fights, he would quickly skedaddle. Elementary school comes grinding for him in around 2006, and as he in his book Mbarek's Silly Life talks about it in the chapter number 1, he says, I remember my first day in school. I felt for the first time in my life a weird pain in my belly. I remember looking at the trees, and my hand on my mom's. The first time ever my mom walks me into someplace and leave me there. I was sitting back there looking at the kids talking to each other, laughing, and some of them was crying. But I wasn't laughing nor crying. I was sad and feeling abandoned. In the end of that chapter he wrote, in a nutshell, my years in elementary school made me realize how awkward and shy person I was, and with that in mind I moved on with my life. What Mbarek realized at that time is that he was an introvert, and he knew that he might become an extreme one day, so he did some prep. The prep was to maintain the relations he already had with his friends, and to make it as strong as possible, for he knows how hard of a task it is to gain new ones. Mbarek went on and on climbing the educational ladder. It wasn't so easy for him, especially when he was young, for his shyness caused him a lot of trouble, but as he grew up, he had no problems, for he was a smart kid that needed no help, but was needed from, and he fulfilled the request whenever received. Mbarek now is a 22 years old man, and I will skip the years from 2007 till 2021 to tell you about the 2022 Mbarek. What is he up to? How did he end up? Does he still have friends? Is he alright? And why didn't he commit suicide already? Doesn't he think life is silly? And death is relief? And something to hope for, as he wrote? Yes, he said that, but also said this in the chapter named Death. Life is full of possibilities, while death might be boring. Yeah, right, but didn't you read what he wrote in a chapter named On Others' Opinions? For he wrote, no one knows what's after death. It's so tempting to know, and I'm a curious guy. Yeah, don't worry about it. He says edgy things sometimes only to impress girls. Well, what is Mbarek Nafa up to now? Let me tell you. He recently wrote that book we've been quoting from. Before that, all he was doing is struggling against adversity and observing the world around him and looking deeply into others' struggle. But one day he wanted to clear his head, to put all he learned observing the world into something so he can move on with his life, and that is what he did, he wrote. It took him 4 months to finish his book, but once he finished that book he felt a sense of freedom he never experienced before. He felt light and ready to get on some new flight, and that is what he did, after he cleared his head and said whatever he'd been mad about, cried his eyes out, laughed until his tongue danced around, he was able to another journey start. And as he in the end of his book said, long journey ahead of us, and even though he didn't about any journey, no, but he still marked the start. The journey Mbarek is currently on is to become an artist, a journey started long ago, but with different intentions. Mbarek Nafa in 2014 fell in love with graphic design. He wanted to be a graphic designer. Since then he started and kept on learning till this day. He became a graphic designer, and later after that a UX/UI designer, but now he wants to be an artist. He always felt like an artist and always wanted to be one, but the time wasn't right, and he wasn't filled with enough emotions to paint yet. But now he is. Now he is a silently existing pile of emotions, with an unbearable urge to paint. Plus his desire to create, and the world for his creations can't wait, nor his friend Walid. Well, I don't have a friend named Walid. Don't worry, I'm an UI designer, I will figure it out. He started, and Mbarek's first painting was born just like any other creation of his in the middle of the night, around the same time this text is being typed, the middle of the night. He titled it Tingle, Horrible. Realization it won't be his last, more are coming, but the first is definitely special. And that is what Mbarek is up to recently. Even though being an artist is not the only thing hovering around in his head, there are other competitors like his law studies, his miserable life, how will he provide, and other silly yet hard to ignore facts. He doesn't want to deal with any of that. The only thing he wants to deal with is being an artist. But he knows, for isn't he the one who wrote this in the end of his book, chapter number 32, Life is silly, yet hard to endure. I think the solution is to seriously deal with it. Therefore, don't worry about him. He will seriously deal with it, and with doses of what he produces as an artist, he will forget about it and share it with us to rejoice. So please make some noise for him to rejoice.